Newsshooter coverage of NAB 2024 is sponsored by Atomos, B&H Photo Video, and Atlas Lens Co.
Hi, it's Matt here for Newsshooter.com at NAB 2024. I'm back at the Blackmagic design booth now. This is the PYXIS, am I saying it correctly?
That's right, yeah, the PYXIS 6K.
And the name behind the PYXIS, what does it mean?
I'm told it means little box in Latin, and it's also a constellation in the southern hemisphere, so matching to Ursa, which is obviously a major constellation, and constellation is the name of our live production systems as well, so a little convention, I guess, in the family naming of the products there.
So for people that may not be familiar with this camera, just run me through its basic specifications and what it can do.
Okay, so it's principally a 6K open gate sensor system shooting a 3x2. We've got 4K full resolution vertical height as well, so there's a ton of anamorphic modes in here, as well as supporting 6K full frame or 2.4:1 and various aspect ratios that people would need. We announced the Cinema Camera 6K at the end of last year. This uses the same sensor technology, but that camera was built around the Pocket cinema camera platform, which was useful for us in terms of integrating and producing our first full format super 35mm, sorry, not super 35mm, sensor technology. We've then taken that forward into what a lot of customers were asking for, which is a box-based camera system. So what we've done here is we've taken a technology and a sensor that we know has been fantastically well received at Open Gate 6K with 13 stops of dynamic range and all the technology and performance we have, and put it into a much smaller, more compact, more robust and a lot more modular camera system, where hopefully we answer the question of why didn't we make a box camera? And we go, well, now here it is with everything that we know that we did so well in the other cameras available for you for digital filmmaking.
So this camera doesn't have internal ND filters. Is there a rationale behind that, or was there any discussion that went on about maybe including it or not?
It was considered. I think, again, trying to keep the design of the camera down to keep it compact and have the capability we wanted with a small box camera system. If we introduced one of our motorized ND systems, then you would change the design and the function of the camera to some degree. So the decision was made really that the NDs could be external. Now that could be in a mat tray, if that's your preference, or if you're rigging this camera out with rails, or again, depending on what lens you're using, you might just want a lens mounted, maybe a variable ND on the front. So the choice is out there in terms of there's lots of options around ND, but just with this camera for us, it wasn't one that we thought absolutely needed an internal system right now.
And in terms of recording formats, I guess, it can only record Blackmagic RAW. Any plans to incorporate ProRes or an H.265 based codec down the track?
So we build the cameras around Blackmagic RAW because it's our core codec that integrates Resolve technology, and the way that Blackmagic works is we do sensor profiling. So with this sensor, we're able to take the best color fidelity and image reproduction through our own codec in Blackmagic RAW that isn't capable for us to do in other codec systems. The camera will shoot H.264, but it shoots it as proxies. So our camera workflow is you can shoot 6K or 4K formats in camera, but you also get a sidecar proxy file. So there's H.264 in there, but only really as a proxy system, not as a recording format.
And of course, we just talked about the EVF before with the Ursa Cine, and it'll work on this camera as well.
Yeah, it will. So as a universal design, we have the connector for the EVF over a USB-C. So that means it's quickly and easily mounted to the PYXIS camera itself. Now, when you buy the camera, it would be the body only. So there'll be an option to buy the Ursa Cine EVF and some of the mounting and rigging that you can see here. So it gives us a really small, compact handheld system with a top handle and a really high quality OLED-based EVF for operators as well.
And finally, the side screen here, this doesn't move or rotate out. Was there any thought about including a flip out screen instead of a stationary screen like this? Again, is that something to do with the design?
Yeah, it was, and where we've got articulation on some of the larger cameras, the actual build out of the design of the camera, if it was articulated, would change what we wanted from a design point of view and change the scale and the compact nature of it. So decision was made that we do need a monitor. The monitor itself obviously is a visual guide, and we've got all of the on-screen controls for whether that's your exposure or whatever. And also the menu system is built around Blackmagic OS, so if you know our camera systems from Pocket or from Ursa, you've got the same control and functionality. We wanted that in the camera. We needed that to be visible to the operators, but we didn't and couldn't really have the articulated screen that comes out the side in this particular design. So we would, steer people to the EVF from a monitoring point of view. And then likewise, if this is a camera system that's maybe be drone-based or on cranes or jibs or whatever, then you might have alternative monitoring options. So you do have a a 12 gig SDI out on the back, so you can bring camera feed out to any other monitoring or off-camera monitoring that you want to do as well.
And finally, I know it's only got a single mini XLR in there. Again, maybe people are going to ask why isn't there not two?
I think principally with the camera being designed around potentially film production and digital filmmaking and narrative production, you may more likely be recording your dialogue off camera. So you've got scratch audio. The mono input gives you some capability for some audio and you can adapt to that. XLRs would be too big for this camera first instance, or we have used mini XLRs, but there is a limitation on the audio in terms of just being a single channel, but it isn't a complete lack of any audio performance in the camera itself, just gives you an option there in what you might want to use.